Hello, and welcome to the podcast Magic is Real. I'm your host, Shannon, and this is a podcast where we talk about all things metaphysical and spiritual with a focus on near death experiences, spiritually transformative experiences in general, the nature of our souls, and anything spiritual and healing. So here we are today, and I am with the lovely Kimberly Braun, who I was very happy to get to meet and hear speak at the International Association for Near Death Studies conference in Phoenix, Arizona this year. Kimberly's lovely. Kimberly is an ordained minister, an author, a writer, a retreat leader, a speaker. I would say inspirational speaker. And today we're going to talk about Kimberly's journey and also with a focus on being guided by spirit, which is such an exciting topic to me, and I trust it will be for you. So, welcome, Kimberly. Thank you for making yourself available today.
It is really great to be with you, Shannon. Thanks for inviting me onto your podcast. And I really look forward to the ways that we're going to feel guided and inspired together today.
Yeah, me too. So, I would just really love to hear about your background. Your starting wherever you want to, whether it's your childhood or beyond, that kind of shaped the human you are today. Were you raised in a religious or spiritual background? And what were I know that you said that very early on you had this sense of, you didn't say unity consciousness. It was, tell me about what you said. It was something like intuition, but it was coming from, you had the sense of there was this greater force.
Yeah, I was actually having a lot of experiences that were unveiling reality for me. So I know in the IANS language, they would call spiritually transformative experiences. I call them unitive experiences because my own language has changed so much. Back then, my language would have been union in God, and it's not the language I use today, though it's appropriate. It can apply. Um, I found that over and over again, consciously from about the age 5 on, time would seem to stop. So I'd be in like this normal, like what we experience, you're going to kindergarten, you're going to this, you do your family thing, you have some pizza, watch a fun show, you are in this world. And over and again, I would be in a situation and it would feel like all time stopped. And then it would feel like almost like veils were pulled back on what was happening. And I would feel interpenetrated by and plunged into a deeper experience of reality. And this was always in the context with a relational God. So it wasn't necessarily, we were Catholic and my mom and dad were real involved in the church. They were more spiritual than they were religious, I would say, even though they were devoted Catholics, in that we were much about charity and kindness and love and prayer. But it wasn't just in those rituals that this would happen, it would happen in nature. Or it would happen when I was with my family one evening and something happened that I didn't understand. But it would always happen when something within me was an open question. Maybe I was confused by something, or maybe I had a deep sentiment arising that made me feel sad, or maybe I was excited about something. But my agency in that was that it was a dance that something would rise up within me that was a strong sentiment, deeper than just some feelings. And in that universal life force, source, eternal source, would amplify things in such a way that I'd have these deeper experiences. So it would take me beyond the linear thing that was happening and really open doors to the multifaceted nature of reality. And when those experiences, and I'm happy to share any of them, but
I would love that. I think I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think I love anecdotal stories too. And I think for people that are like, "What do you mean?" I
Right,
think it
right.
really helps. Like,
Big
what does that
statement.
feel like? What do you mean?
Yeah, it
I would
sounds
love that.
lyric, doesn't
It
it? Like
does. Yeah.
yes. I'll share 2. The first one's very short. One night, I must have been about 7 years old, and every Friday night we would have pizza. We lived in Ohio at the time, and there was this place we loved the pizza. And almost every Friday night, I would go with my dad to get the pizza. For whatever reason, my sister went with my dad this time, which at first I was kind of sad about. But then immediately I'm like, but I'm going to set the table. I'm going to get everything ready. And I was very excited to put all my energy into that. So I got everything ready on the table. But what I had done is that was the one time a week we would have Coke, unlike today's society where everyone's drinking whatever they want, whenever. Like this was our special treat to have a Coke on a Friday night. I poured it in the glasses and put the ice. I was so excited it's going to be cold when they got back. But the ice started melting and the glasses were perspiring onto the table and they were ruining my place settings and ruining all this work that I had put into making a really beautiful evening. And my first response was a really deep sadness. Like, I ruined everything tonight, is what came up in me. And when that sadness rose up in me, immediately time stopped. And I had this deeper plunging into reality. No, what the evening is about is the joy of you all being together. And in that, then my sadness was erased. And I realized I couldn't ruin something like that. It was just about being close to the people that you love. So that's something that I think we can all relate to because we all have experiences where we give our all and it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
And we can feel discouraged. But we have opportunities to open up to the deeper reality that there's much more going on than just that transactional um, event that happened. So that's one. Um, Many of the experiences I had were much more what you would call much more explicitly spiritual. To me, that was very spiritual, all those. But it was much more spirit obvious. One of my biggest illuminations that has influenced my whole life happened when I was 5. I might have been 6, but I think I was kindergarten. And we would walk to and from school because it was so safe and school was close. And I loved autumn. It was my favorite season. And in Cincinnati, autumn would come in with such beauty. You know, the air would shift, it'd be slightly cooler. The leaves had all turned many different colors. The wind picked up just a little bit. You could feel change. And it was so magic is real. It was so magic that I would oftentimes, I love to walk home alone. I would oftentimes be lost in all of this magic. And one time I was so lost in it, I started whirling home because I began experiencing how nature was a dance. Everything was dancing and alive. So I started whirling like a Sufi, knew nothing about Sufis.
Yeah.
And I'm whirling home, whirling home. And as I'm whirling, the joy in me is getting really big. And so when I got to the cul-de-sac and then made it down towards my house, I stopped and I just was like if you had a delicious ice cream cone, it's just I was like, oh, because I was so simple as a child. I was
Yeah.
just in it. And then when I opened my eyes, I looked across the street and there was a tree that was really lit up more than anything else before me. So because it was so lit up energetically, it pulled me into it. And I could feel the tree. And as I got pulled spiritually into the tree, I got riveted on one leaf, and this leaf was almost like, look at me, look at me. So I was pulled into that leaf, and this leaf was going like this on the branch. And I could feel like I could feel like I was the leaf, honestly. And then at a certain point, the leaf broke off the branch and began this beautiful descent towards the ground. Unsolicited, Shannon, out of nowhere. this massive existential grief came up in me. And from nowhere, something within me said, "Is that it?" On the personality level. Is that all there is? We're moving towards dying? Because it felt like the leaf was dying. But again, none of this was conscious because it was all outside the time sense of being. But the moment that grief came up, it was like the beloved didn't want me to suffer. Time really stopped, and I felt like myself pulled into a vortex. It was like, and I had this experience that the leaf was in God and God was in the leaf. And without realizing it, I was having the experience that I was in God and God was me, and that all life was simply becoming, being and becoming in this. And it washed away that existential grief. It that has never been a concern ever again. And it formed my cosmology that young. So how I look at the world is that way, very simply. So that shifted me to be even more open to the adventure that is not physical. It catches up the physical. It is embodied, but it is not ordained by, or the physical is not the agent of. And so the physical has become much more subtle to me. And as I continue to grow and change, that becomes even more dynamic, more fluid, more robust. So, those are two experiences that were really formative for me when I was little.
And as you told that story, your aura got so bright. I can see it all around you. I don't always see aura, but sometimes I do. And it just was like just bright, bright, bright white light. So, oh, I got chills just now too.
I
So
feel
thank
it.
you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, that was really cool. And also the camera's doing these effects thing where it's going in and out. And it was like, this is so, I don't know, it was like really, it was really cool to listen to. And also I can understand why you're, successful and uh, why you like to write and why you're a successful author because you are so beautiful with expression and words. And it does really strike me too that I think you can use that example of the filling up the glasses with Coke, and they get watery. And then you have this feeling of that's not what matters. You're only 7. So I'm not saying that kids aren't really intelligent, but to me, that is so a perfect example of that is spirit speaking to you almost as like a parent because you could have thought of that at 7 possibly, but I felt like you first of all you know when spirit's speaking to you because you feel it. It's a feeling. But also just did you come up with that? And as a medium I always tell people when there's a thought that you're like that doesn't sound like me, like you're smart, but are you that deep? It really does strike me that you were listening to spirit in a sense. Do you feel that way?
I do. And I feel like spirit wanted to console me.
Yeah.
In those moments, I felt, talk about guided, I felt so guided in my life that there was something that was personal, something, some being that cared so much that I wouldn't have to feel discouragement
Yeah.
and knew that if I understood the real nature of things, that I would be consoled by it. I mean, isn't that incredible? And I was consoled by it. It washed away that the concern or the fear or the disappointment or discouragement. It washed it away. I mean, what a tremendous gift.
Hmm. Yeah. And we weren't allowed to drink Coke either, but we could go to Angelina's Pizza where they have the checkered tablecloths and the most amazing New York pizza and have Coca-Cola for dinner. So I loved hearing that. So then going through your life, and we're going to get back to, and we're going to incorporate that feeling of guidance throughout the conversation. Um, and listening to that. And even it might be subtle, but it keeps guiding you and propelling you forward. And it can be a very subtle voice. The next chapter, well, I'm sure there's a lot that happened in between, but there's some major things that happened in your life that became a long-term, like, your 10-year stay at your 10-year monastery experience, which I'd love to hear you speak about
Yes, yes. Moving to that. Yeah, the only thing that I would add in there on the way to
on the
that
way to, yeah.
is my own particular gifts that are multidimensional really came on strong when I was in junior high school. And then in high school, I was plunged into a really big dark night. I mean, truly a dark night of the soul. I mean, truly. And complete miracle coming through the other side, knowing that I was held all along through that dark night because I truly felt abandoned. And, but there was nothing else I could do because I think when we go through dark nights that are all consuming, when we've given our all to something, in a mysterious way, we're held through that dark night, even if it doesn't feel like it, because we've become so surrendered to something that we can't go anywhere else. There's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
And therefore we're kind of stuck, but in the best sense of that, because then we're forced into the staying in the dark night until the right awakenings happen and the healings happen that bring us through it. And we find that we were held all along in that feeling of abandonment. Coming through that on the other side, oh, my mystical experiences went off the charts. It was I was only lately here in this world for about 4 years. So with that being said, joining a monastery was a natural step because synchronistically it lined up. All these mystics kept coming into my life and they were all Carmelite and they became my friends. And there were things that got evoked in me when I thought about the richness of a monastic life and the paradox that monastic life is actually a boundless life. So it looks like a more bound life. You're more contained, you're less at the liberty to, like, you don't go off to do a career, or you don't go boating for the weekend, or you're very contained, but that containment is for the sake of the boundlessness on the in the other realms. And being in monastic life afforded me that. It afforded me that. And, as a medium, you know how many dimensions there are and the layers that are there for us to explore and know and are really part of our lives. And I got to be front and center in all of that for the 10 and a half years. So it was the right place for me, really the right place. So uh, joining was interesting because it it was so resonant to become Carmelite, and I was so on fire with love that I was going to be burned up, honestly. But it took me a while. It took me like 2 years to for the right monastery to show itself to me and things line up. And if I look back now, I truly think that that monastery chose me and I chose it probably because of other factors like past life and other dimensions. And I really do, because there were ways that that monastic life was not the best fit for me. And there were ways that it was perfect. It was very conservative theologically, which I was not. And in that, but we were in silence. So in a way, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
You're not affected so much by it. And it put me in challenging, discerning positions at various moments because I disagreed with the spiritual premise for certain decisions that were made. But I also found that in that containment, my own experiences were amplified. I mean, some of the stories I could tell about the visions and the miracles and the everything that happened there, it was partly because of that conservative containment that it tightened around me, so my spirit went more. So it was right for me in that way. But when I do look at it, it was right for me at that time. And then there came a time when my evolution happened to move in the direction where it was no longer a container for me. It was the natural next step with spirit. It wasn't a leaving of something, it was rather a continuation in a new form. And I love getting to give witness to that because so often we hope that our yeses to big things in our lives are meant to be for our entire lifetime. How often people get married and they do so with the real intent that they're going to be married for the rest of their lives. And then life happens and shows them things and they discover, wow, maybe this was only meant to be for 10 years. And, this life is very mysterious that way. I get to give witness to that. Yeah.
This sounds kind of like a basic question, but I don't know how else to ask it because I think I would love to know what the experience of living in a monastery and devoting your life to that is kind of like. Um, and I know that's huge because it's all of these years of your life. But if you could sum it up, however you feel does it justice for people that have never had that experience, like what
It's
this is
all,
such a basic what was it like? It just, yeah, I can't even imagine. And also like how did it change you and what did you take from it? And, that kind of thing.
yeah. So every monastic community lives a little differently. We You have vows that you end up taking if you stay: poverty, chastity, and obedience. You largely, in Carmelite communities that are observing the charism, you largely live in silence and you speak maybe like less than an hour a day where everybody gets together and you do things like you sew or you do farming together, and that's a time to, they call it recreation. It's time to be outside the silence. You are with yourself and with spirit in silence 23 hours out of every day. So imagine saying yes to a life where it's not for a 10-day retreat.
Yeah.
There's a whole different framework. A 10-day retreat, people may say, oh, I don't know if I can do it, but they know there's an end.
Yeah.
Imagine saying yes to going, well, I might not talk for the rest of my life, except in this small little situation. But it was very rich. We chanted and meditated and prayed for close to 8 hours a day. We would get up at midnight and spend an hour when all the land was shrouded in darkness. You'd get up at 5:30 and you'd bring in the dawn. We were together about 3 hours in the morning. And then through the day, it was punctuated with a lot of these practices. So your life, for me, it became that I became the fiber of the creation story, because you're simply chanting the creation story and the divine in creation. And so as you do that on a cellular level, you just start to vibrate these big ways that creation is pulsing and existing and expanding. Your life becomes really simple that way. Do you have little concerns? Of course. Do you encounter your shadow? Absolutely. But the thing is you either surrender or you're going to be miserable because you have
Mhm.
nowhere to go when you're in the silence. You can't put on the radio and distract yourself. You can't vent to a friend. You can't make up some hobby that helps you balance out the work you don't like. Like, you're in it. And you stay in a monastic life for the right reasons, because otherwise you'd either get delusional or you'd be miserable. Uh, but I loved going straight in. And every time something rose within me that was in need of loving attention, I I just read a quote recently. It was so great. It says, "Our wounds, oh, becoming aware of our wounds aren't looking for protection. Our wounds are looking for attention. And I thought that was such a beautiful statement because where we're wounded, we look to protect and shield and defend. But when we have a wound, it's actually just looking for loving attention. And so when parts of me that were coming forward to be healed revealed themselves, I was in a safe place for that. I was held by the mother, if you will. And there it could move through me and deeper insight could come on the other end. But then even more than that was the celebration of the magnificence of ourselves as spiritual. We're a soul. We've got breadth and depth beyond what we know. And getting to say yes to that without the limitations that some of society's systems can put on us was incredibly liberating and delightful, really delightful. So, are there things you give up? Absolutely. But don't you do that in every single life choice? Right. You
Yeah.
know? So,
And there's a lot less drama when there's sometimes I think if we just didn't talk, we wouldn't have fights. I know you did speak and you obviously have energetic interactions, and I assume you had relationships with the people outside of the monastery that you would keep up. Were you communicating with family and friends enough for that to happen, or did it feel pretty
no,
isolating?
you know what? It's interesting because I don't know why I didn't know this, but I didn't know the protocols about relationships outside the monastery
Yeah.
before I entered. It was one of the things that I didn't like.
Yeah.
We were very limited in our communications. And I didn't know I was saying yes to that. And it's a testament to a call because the call was so strong, Shannon. I mean, it was like, it would be trying to like ford a rushing river. I mean, the call was so strong to be there that even though that was one of the things that I'm like, I don't know if this seems very healthy to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to trust this process because it seems like I'm really called. We got to write, letters could come back and forth with family every 6 weeks, which is oftentimes more than people see their families. We couldn't write to friends. I didn't get to keep any of my friendships up. And that was massive because I had a very deep, rich collection of friendships. So that was what it was.
Yeah.
Years later, when I left, I learned how certain friends, I had one really close friend. And she said she was so angry at God.
Mm.
She was not atheist, but she's definitely is somewhat a religious. And she said, I went through a few years where I was so angry at God that you made that choice.
Yeah.
And I could get that. I get it. I get it. That part I think was too rigid on the community's part. I think a lot has changed in the past 40 years.
Mhm.
I don't think, now I'm not Catholic anymore, but I can't imagine they're getting a lot of vocations. Women today are coming into a world that is much different, and saying yes to something that's an archaic practice doesn't float so easily.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of that because my next question is when you're really you're just being to some degree. I mean, that's really kind of what it is. It's just being with yourself. And also, I thought, how often do I turn to my friends for processing difficult emotions, even happy emotions, sharing my joys and how I don't want to say reliant, but really, or dependent, but I think, it is important, at least for me. And I'm trying to imagine what if I just had to process it by just kind of dealing with me and God's spirit, whatever that is. And in a way, how interesting that is. And so my question is, when you've lived that life, how do you adjust to the quote unquote real world where that's not the vibe? And there's just a constant assault of having to engage with all these other people and opinions and conflicts and all of that.
Sure. Well, I I believe that when we come into wholeness, we can live from a place of wholeness, which then will orient all our relationships and influence all our choices. So that is something that as I went through the 10 and a half years, there were ways that I grew in wholeness. One of them was the direct experience that I'm in a field. I feel like I'm in a field of silence. Even when I love to go dancing, so I love
Mhm.
gatherings.
Me too.
Even when I'm there, I also feel that I'm in a field of silence. It has never left me that, and that gives me an incredible amount of centering and grounding. So that part was easy, and even it probably has made me even more effective in my life and made me more adaptable to all of life's variances and challenges. Ways that skillfulness did not develop in me were ways I've had to develop. Monastic life doesn't address interpersonal things at times when it does need to be addressed. Sometimes there's bypassing, like, oh, you just need to, keep in the silence. Well, and I remember one time opposing, I was in Texas. It's when I built the monastery down there. And uh, I was given permission, of course, to talk because I'm building a monastery. And there was a nun in that community who really did not like me. She was 25, 30 years older. She really wanted to be in leadership. Something about me she just disliked, which happens. You have personality things that happen. And here I come in, and all of a sudden, Spirit has called me to build a monastery. So here I am in a massive leadership role, and she had a lot of resentment and jealousy. Could she have done it? Spirit can make anything happen, but she definitely did not have the natural capacity. She didn't evidence that she had uh, that level of development to lead in that way, to work with hundreds of people and manage details and manage a project. So she was an unlikely candidate to be chosen for that. But it got really bad. I mean, she would find really unfortunate ways to kind of strike out at me in the silence. And I approached the leader in the community and said, could we just please sit down and talk? Sister, I don't want to say her name, and me, could we have some time? I said, it's not good. And I think if we really sat down and talked, we could become friends.
Mhm.
We could hear each other, and I was denied that permission. I was told to trust the silence. And it only got worse. And I had to work
Right.
with a lot of painful moments that didn't really have to happen, I don't think. So, going from monastic life out into the world, there were ways that I came forward more whole because I was less given to looking into false forms of security, interacting with the world on much more superficial ways. Like, that's all not in my DNA, even at this point.
Yeah.
But there were weak points in monastic life and things that I had the opportunity to develop in relationship. So, being in grad school and then being in parish ministry and now being an entrepreneur on lots of projects and working with hundreds of people have allowed me to develop that skillfulness. But I don't have a partner and I don't have children, which I love them and I would have loved to have had them. But that, in a way, provides a somewhat of a monastic air for me. The air I breathe remains somewhat monastic because uh, my modus operandi doesn't have children in my home or a partner in my home, even though I love community and I love living with others. So um, that, I think, is probably a mixed answer that touches on a lot of what you're pointing to. I don't have TV. I don't get caught on social media. I avoid scrolling. I mean, if I do scroll, it's to watch little dance vignettes or
Yeah.
funny comedian or something. And because of my service in the world, I get to stay rooted in the learning. So even though I'm considered a spiritual leader, spiritual leadership is following spirit. Any good spiritual leader is following. And
Yeah.
so I get to be in that realm every single day. It's my containment, if you will. I'm constantly having details to work out with that, forming new programs, creating new videos. And so that keeps me anchored in the one reason I think I'm alive.
Yeah. So that's a really great segue into something we want to kind of dive into today, which is the guidance of spirit. And you can speak to that right off the bat. If you like, I just will say as a form of a lead in also that this is a synchronicities is really, really, really big this week for it. I love it. Synchronicities, it's wild. And this has been one of those weeks where suddenly I mean, I'm drained from all of this in it's like exciting, but also my physical body is like exhausted because of all of this spiritual kind of activity that's happening in the best ways that is transforming me so quickly. And so it's a very, very on my mind right now that I've been having just a tough time that's been like work has not been there. And so I've been struggling to, financially survive. And so I kept asking spirit, just show me the path, show me the path. I know doing my best to trust, but I'm really scared right now. And so I said, I'll take action, putting out the word to, hey, I'm available for work. Nothing's coming through. And Sean Leather, one of our,
Uh,
yes, one of our, I don't know, colleagues, but he's a a wonderful near death experiencer, called and said, I have a message from Spirit for you. He said, yeah. So he said, they're saying that the reason you're stuck right now is because all of the things you're trying to do are not where you're supposed to go. So you're putting effort into these things, and yes, you need to pay your bills. That's not where you're meant to go. You have a spiritual path that you're on. And I knew this to be true. It doesn't mean that you have to be in financial lack to be on a spiritual path. But right now, you're so panicked about maybe I should just get a day job. Maybe I should just do this. And he said, the reason nothing is happening, and even your voiceover career has just sort of like stagnated, is because you have something to do. And I said, you know what? I've been told I'm supposed to write this book. I have written three-quarters of it. I took the spiritual part out because I wasn't sure that my audience would necessarily. I don't want to alienate any. It's a self-help book, but I don't want to alienate those who may not be spiritual and talk about mediumship and all of that. It might be too alienating. And I kind of came to a standstill, and then kind of everything else came to a standstill. I said, I decided today I've got to put the spiritual stuff back in. And have a feeling that if I start doing that, things will flow again. And I asked Spirit, just please show me. And so I interviewed for this job. Seemed really great. Uh, but there was in my mind, I heard this isn't going to be your job. Even though I was
mm,
there in front of this like family for a nanny position, they were nice. I could tell they liked me. I thought, nope, it's not going to happen because it's not meant to be. I couldn't see myself there, and for no reason. And then I began writing the book again, and I heard spirit, and then a lot of stuff came up. I was triggered about some things, and I thought, "Ooh, I have some unhealed stuff that's here." And I heard spirit say, you need to heal. You thought you were healed, but you've got some more stuff to do. And when you heal that stuff, then we're going to start to show you abundance. Like, so I cried and cried and cried and cried. I was like, that thing is still there. It's like I'm still that little kid. I still feel like my inner child is hurt and just not. And I just sobbed and processed. And then, like, the next I heard spirit say, trust, 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 just trust. And I said, okay, if you're on the case, please show me a peacock today. And I opened my email, and there was a little art, a little graphic of a peacock with money as
mm,
feathers. Right. And I said, okay, thank you. I see you. And then sure enough, I got a call saying you did not get we chose somebody else for this job. And I felt this wave of relief. And then uh, in that day, three people booked mediumship readings. I sold like seven things on Poshmark. I taught like three classes today. Like suddenly, that's why I forgot to confirm with you. I was like, all of a sudden, I got like bombarded with opportunities. And I was like, oh my God. And the whole time I knew it, I heard this subtle voice saying, don't take another job.
wow.
Like my parents are saying, you need a job. You've got to switch careers. Like this isn't working out. You got to figure it out. And I'm like, I know, but spirit's telling me no. And it was such a profound thing that I wanted to share it with you all that I
Mm.
knew, but I was like, "Am I just being spiritually bypassing or making ex" No, spirit doesn't want me to get a job, but it was like, "No, spirit does not want me working in corporate America. Please don't make me do it." But then spirit started to show me so fast. It was like I never sell 6 things on one day. It's like maybe one thing every 2 weeks. It was like, "Here, and guess what? Now people are gonna start signing up for readings, and then suddenly people are reaching out to you asking when you're teaching, and then suddenly people are reaching out, 'You're on hold for this voiceover job,'" and I was like, "That's spirit knows what it's doing." So now that I've told that long-winded story, I'd love for you to speak on whatever you feel guided to speak about regarding this topic.
Mm. Wow. Well, first, I just want to hold a moment of silence for you
Thank you.
and for the courage to respond to the way spirit moved within you in really kind of almost dark, mysterious ways.
Oh, yeah.
And you,
It was a churning. I heard the astrology, everyone was saying this weekend's gonna be a doozy, and I thought, "Nah, I'm sure it won't happen." And just something came up for me with an interaction I had that triggered me,
yes,
and I thought and I said, "Thank you." I did Ho'oponopono for the
yes,
person, for myself, and I said, "Thank you, spirit." I had like you said something just a little bit ago, and it's exactly that. It's about feelings needing to come up, not to punish us or something, it's because we need to love them and heal them and
yeah.
continue to heal them, or it was your own words, but that resonated so much. And I realized spirit was saying, but not yet. There are
Mm,
still blocks there. And I kept saying, show me what my blocks are. I did. Show me what my blocks are. Oh, you just still don't feel worthy. You still feel judged. You still feel not lovable. You still feel not enough. Even though on the outside I do, it was, oh, that little kid isn't healed yet. And that's what the block is.
mm,
Cry it out, say hello to it, thank it. Not to say that's it. Now it's healed. But it needed to be seen and acknowledged and thanked and ho'oponoponoed. And then I needed to say, nope, this book is authentic to me because I'm
yeah.
a spiritual person. And if it's too much for people, then it's not, then I'm not, they're not my audience.
Right. Right. Good work. Good work. Way to be simple about it all.
And I wanted to share that too, again, just to encourage other people to listen to
Right.
that voice and to know that there are spirits guiding you, even when it feels like there's no one there. Why am I'm just dangling in space? I've
Yeah.
jumped off a cliff with nowhere to land. What's happening? Spirit guides are there. Trust the timing.
I think
Take action. Yes.
yeah, the mysterious thing about being human with all the different physiological realities of being human is that I think on a very deep level, we still carry a fear around, is everything going to be okay?
Yes.
And that carries into even our spiritual sense of being. We're this mixed bag of we've got, is everything going to be okay? And we've got this adventurous, boundless part of ourselves that's uh, much more than the 3D world. So we're not being eaten by tigers anymore. But, you know, and it's such in, but yet, how often in these moments of not knowing where stability is for us, or security, or belonging, or next step forward, or what's the meaning of my life, or all these things are really important things, and how to navigate them from a place of truly active surrender, so that we recognize that we can relax into, we're guided not just when we need it, we're guided because that's part of what it means to be alive. We can't not be guided. It's like belonging. I was just doing some research on quantum consciousness, and science is proving there's no way that we can't belong. And so these feelings sometimes when we belong or when we don't belong, and what that means for us, if we could wake up and allow ourselves to realize that just being alive inherent in ourselves is a belonging. Now, relaxing into knowing you belong in this world is a massive form of guidance. It's so remarkable how feeling that we do not walk alone, that we're held, that we're guided, and that our desires matter as well, that we're meant to act on these deep soul desires, that we're meant to be creators. I mean, we're such a mixed bag, when it comes to all of this. And I don't think there's a cookie cutter approach, because look at your path just led you to something new you got to taste and experience in yourself, but that the common elements are the willingness to go there, the willingness to be present with ourselves, the willingness to ask the kind of question from the kind of openness that can yield the answer, that can allow us to hear the answer. I would say for me, what's massive way that I'm experiencing guidance, and this is such a lot of times in my life, I've gotten major downloads, like the joining the monastery one, the building the permanent monastery one. Like in my life, I've gotten these major downloads, even when I left, major download. I have been in a period where I am aware that there is some major download that is like right around the corner that's going to be all consuming by way of my own personal call. And it's not here yet. And I'm not treading waters. I mean, I just published a third book. I created a festival. I'm doing online course. So I'm very creative and active. And people are like, oh my gosh, you're in the juice of your ministry and your flow. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. It's all consuming. But Shannon, I am in this place where I'm like, but these aren't it. These are just, they're an aspect of it, but there's an it that's coming and I don't know what it is. And when it reveals itself, it is going to take my all. It there's a way that I'm going to be up leveled, and I can't even put words to it. There's some I'm going to be like a different person. Like there is something, and I don't think it's coming at death. I don't get that inclination that there's something in this lifetime. And what's happening is the universe keeps reflecting it back to me. I'll be like at a book signing, and somebody in the audience, I remember when I was at a couple years ago, at the end came up to me and she said, there's something right around the corner. And I'm like, I know, I can feel it. It's like the air is pregnant, but it's slow in revealing itself. It's not, how sometimes we get these big senses and then something breaks quickly on a
Hmm.
time scale. Like it happens and then a week later something happens. This is not like that. It's like I'm aware of it and I am almost like sitting in a rocking chair, ready. Like that's ready.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it happens, it's almost like I'm going to travel at the speed of light. And then I'm going to be there doing that or being that or whatever it is. And what keeps supporting my trust in that, because I've had a lot of moments that have been uncertain, is synchronicities keep lining up.
Yep.
Or I keep getting into conversations where I dreamt what this person was going to say 2 months earlier, which is when that happens, spirit is saying, see, you're right where you're meant to be.
Mm.
So there, this pregnant moment that's coming, trust that it's coming. It's big. It's for me. It's big. It could be as big as an internal shift. I'm not building it out to be big like a material monastery.
Yeah.
I built it. I don't know what big means. What I do know is big means everything. It's going to take everything of me in the beautiful sense of that word, not in a suffering sense, but in a generative sense. So for guidance, and I don't know if this consoles anybody listening, I'm on this long path that's been going on for like 8 years, where
Yeah.
I am aware. I'm like keenly aware. I'm like, I almost want to keep looking around the corner, like, is that it?
Yeah.
It? While staying the course, writing another book, and not building out anything to pretend that it is it, because it's not it.
Mm. So well said. That Thank you. That was beautiful. Yeah, that resonated so much. The synchronicities around what I was just sharing too is this entire week. I feel floaty. I feel like I'm not quite in this world. I'm getting a little dizzy, so I probably need to ground, but also in a good way. I'm seeing repeating numbers. You know, you see them because they exist, but this is like, oh my, literally every time I leave the house. 888-777-333, and it's exaggerated, like huge repeating numbers on buildings or license plates that are 77777 88888, and I'm laughing because I'm like, oh my god, it's all happening in like right this whatever chapter. And I had asked Spirit, please show me what you want, what I meant to, I mean, not what I meant to do like professionally, but how can I be of the most service and bring in the most abundance? Like, how can those two things exist? And show me what you want me to do. Because if it's not mediumship, maybe that's not the calling. Maybe it's, and I'm like, but it's something I love doing and I'll continue to do. But is there something I'm missing here that will help create abundance for all involved? So then I was teaching a voiceover student the other day in a private session, and I heard I it clicked because I realized while I'm not allowed to say, I mean, my boss is very into it and she's had readings with me, but obviously not professional to in an acting class to bring up what I do. I felt this girl's dad come to me because he had just passed, and I felt him, and I'm like, I can't tell her. So I asked him, can you just tell me how to guide her, what she needs to hear today, what will help her? And I was able to take her from reading a script and just sort of reading it the way she thought it should sound. And I walked this through her. I'm like, she feels she has to be too, she's performing. She's performing and not being. So I took her back to a place of you're enough, gave her like the sort of, she's like, I just think I'm so awkward. And I was like, you are so beautiful and you have your own beautiful
Mm.
quirkiness and beauty and interest. You're so interesting. And I'm like, so, after we had that talk, I said, just put this in your own words and tell me from your heart what this means to you. And then she did. And then she read the script and she began to cry in the middle of it. Oh, I got chills. And I said, you went from just kind of like this novice, I don't, actor to like Meryl Streep. And I said, why? Because you trusted yourself. You realized you were enough. You weren't performing for me. You were just being. And I realized like that's what she needed to hear. Her dad was able to guide me to tell her that. And all of a sudden she was so authentic, real, in it, in the moment. And I thought, okay, it doesn't mean like I'm meant to be an acting coach. It means if you let spirit guide you in your work, suddenly I was like, I want to cheerlead for people. I want to help them, like you said, like you do, help them come back to themselves, help them remember, even if you can't bring up the spiritual stuff, how can we help them remember who they are and how? And I gave my whole class today. I was like, I hope this didn't get too woo woo, but it was like, you are all beautiful, worthy beings of light that deserve to shine, kind of thing. And she said, wow, that just changed it's like
Oh,
anything
yeah.
acting, anything we do, anything we
Yes.
do is from when you believe. We all have these like, oh, I don't think I'm good. I don't know if I'm, it's like, if you just let your natural light shine, you'll be good. Because I
Yeah.
said, acting isn't about being good. She said, I feel like people are better than me. I said, there's always a better actor. You're a better than another actor. Everyone always has, but are they you? And also, you're exactly where you need to be. And also, every student I teach now, I'm coming from a spiritual perspective of the only thing stopping you from being a good actor is that you don't believe in yourself and you're forgetting who you are
Mm.
and you're forgetting it's okay to be present. It's interesting. You in yourself are interesting and you have a voice. And so it just suddenly realized spirit was telling me, bring spirit into everything, into the book, into your acting, into whatever it is that you're doing professionally, as you're bringing that spirit of love and showing love and supporting people so that they believe in themselves. I'm not saying everyone's going to be a great actor, like objectively, but you have the best chance of expressing yourself when you are being authentic, true to yourself, loving yourself, and knowing that you deserve to take up space and that
Mhm.
what you have to say is important and people are happy to listen and that what you have to say is worth listening to.
Mm. I love that.
I
Right.
love that too. I just had to share.
Yeah.
Normally, I
Thank
just had to
you.
share because it was so spirit led. And I knew I was like, I get it. I get it. It's like, and then they're showing me the repeating numbers and the symbols. I said to Spirit, if you hear me, which I know you do, show me Marvin the Martian, because that's just something that popped into my head as being really random. The next day, was driving in traffic. The car in front of me had a Marvin the Martian sticker on the back of it.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
just,
Yes.
I was like, I haven't thought of Marvin the Martian 15 years. I don't even know the last time it just was like, pick something so random. How did the spirit do it? But it's like you said, it's showing you are in the flow. You
Mhm.
are in the flow. You are on the right path. Anything you want to add to that, I would love to receive.
What's coming to me that's a little bit more of a how can we support ourselves in being aware of this guidance?
Mm.
And what's really coming to me is a really practical thing. I'm stepping into teaching mode. I don't mean to. It's just the one thing that's coming to me, so I'm sharing it.
Please step into teaching mode. I think people love that. I love that's how we learn from each other, don't we?
Yeah, we rarely give time to let ourselves relish in the many moments that we have been guided in our lives to date. And when we stop and share these stories, so if you're listening to these stories, and hopefully you're feeling happy about them and relating to it. And but sharing your story about how you're guided, even if it's sharing it to yourself by writing it down, but sharing it with a friend, spending time, I have found that that only magnifies the awareness of these opportunities to awaken into the guidance and the synchronicities. And that I just I just used one of my poems. I don't need to read it here, but I am in a talk. I'm leading something online right now, and in a talk I did, I think yesterday, I used one of my poems, two of my poems, because what's interesting about these poems is that one of them is a poem about an experience I had in 1989. And so you look at that, and the experience happened, and it was in my honeymoon period with the divine. So I was like totally, I was dancing out under the full moon by myself in the forest, and everything was alive. And so here I am out in this very powerful experience. And there was one song that was really alive in me in that moment. And it's called All Consuming Fire, You're My One Desire. And I love you, I love you, I love you. And I was just singing this and singing this. And I was singing it with such fire and devotion that I thought I would just get incinerated. I mean, my body was so alive. And then I've always remembered that moment. And years later, I wrote this poem about that moment. And so here you've got a moment of being really taken up where you're alive in an ecstatic experience. And then the guidance led me 20 years later, 89, oh 09, 19, 15 years later, to write a poem, Divine Guidance. And then now that poem serves many people since then for the past 10 years or 8 years. And then I can read that poem now, and it lights up within me the same as when I had that experience in that way. And so I guess my point with this is like, and you sharing your story of how you're guided, it it brings the present moment reality so immediate that even something that happened yesterday or happened last week is really happening right now, because in the story you're telling, we're getting the spirit infusion of that story. And so where I'm feeling, where what was coming to me is, everybody who's listening, tell these stories.
Yeah.
Focus less, a little less, just a little less, on the need to focus all the time on your problems,
Mhm.
or the wound that's the cause of the problems, or, and let those rise and let them be honored. Don't repress, but give more time to the descriptors and the details of telling these guided moments. I told the story about the Coke glasses. I still feel lit up when I tell that story, and can feel how guided I was in that moment. There's no story too small. If spirit has moved dramatically in a moment of your life, that's eternal. It's not too small. You picking a flower, and that flower giving a fragrance that let you exhale so deeply that you knew everything's going to be okay. Tell that story, so that that story itself can then reveal even more wisdom to you. That's what came to me.
Kimberly, that was so beautiful. Thank you. I just am thinking, I was like, every word I'm hanging on. And I appreciate everything that you said. And this is why we podcast. And
Yeah.
this is why we do it, because we need to tell our stories. The whole point, right? In your sharing why would you write a book? I mean, you could write it for yourself, but why would you do that? It's to share
Yes.
inspiration,
Yes.
insight,
Mhm.
hope, and again, to know your voice matters and deserves to be heard, that everyone has a unique voice and a unique perspective and unique experiences. And when you share them, we can all relate to certain things. We bring things up for each other that we hadn't thought about. It's food for thought, and inspires critical thinking and debate, and expanding our understanding of the world and each other. So I love what you shared so much. This was so special. Uh, I love that topic. I'm so excited by it, and it's so lovely to just hear your wisdom. So I just want to thank you so, so,
Mm.
so much for taking the time, and also just giving your energy to sharing with my listeners and with me. There is a part of me that was like, I want a podcast because I just want to listen to people. I want to ask all the questions I want to know, and I want to ask all about people. I'm so curious. I'm always asking a million questions. So I'm like, I can do it and learn. I love learning about people that I don't know yet. Tell me everything about your life. So I just want to give you the opportunity to share anything that you would like to share in terms of books coming out, that your website, your workshops, any retreats, anything that you'd like to share. And then, of course, we'll have links below, but feel free to share anything you'd like that you're offering.
Oh, I appreciate it. And I know I have a little bit of a holy envy that you do a podcast. It's not in the cards for me right now. It's not the right choice, but I would love that too, to sit with all these amazing people and
I
get
get to
to
meet
learn
new friends
things.
all the time. It's like now I have like more friends than I could even handle, and I just, but it means so much. There's so many people in the world, and I try to meet every human being that I possibly can, because I just find people so interesting.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I would love to. So there's, first of all, everything about me. If you want to connect with me, I'm sure I want to connect with you. Everything is on my website, kimberlybraun.com. Every way to get a hold of me, to be connected, to learn about anything I'm doing, to learn what's possible, all on my website. I keep it up to date. When this podcast come out, it'll be on there too. So that is the main thing. That being said, there's two things I'd really love to share with you all. First is that I really feel great about my books that are out. I have three books. The third one that just came out is called Miracles in the Naked Light. And it's even on Audible. And my
Ooh.
publisher had me record it with my voice in studio. So you really get the tonality of the experiences personally. And I think it's really good. It's really encouraging in a time where I'm experiencing, especially in the US, where people are really scared, even more scared than
Oh, yeah.
than before. I don't even know if that's true, but maybe it's true. Uh, it's a source of real encouragement, real solid encouragement. I that is good. And then the second thing is just recently I started an account on Patreon. And Patreon is a platform where a lot of artists and musicians use it. I got the guidance to say, well, even as somebody who's doing spirituality things, that would be a really great way for me to create community. And there's two levels that you can be on Patreon. You can do the free level, and with that, you receive a weekly video that's a little mystic reflection.
Ooh.
And then the paid level, which is only $11 a month, I do lots of things there. So right now we're doing a 2-week mystic immersion that has a 30-minute reflection meditation each day.
Oh.
And then we gather twice live. And I do another 4-week one in the fall and a 6-week one in the spring. And it's a great low demand way to tap in, not just with me. So if you're resonating with this conversation we had, then we probably have a similar spirituality. So you get to connect with me, but the people that are there, if you're looking for community or a new friend, they're going to be your type of people because they're
Yeah.
attracted to my belief system and the way I express things. So there's going to be something there that you might find a home. And it's a low price point. I mean, $11 a
Yeah.
month for all that you get. I wanted to do it that way so that nobody could say, I can't afford that because you can't.
Right.
I got a Starbucks for $6 on my way there. So, you
You
know.
know, I think that's great because then just, like if you do a reading with me, it's $175. But I usually go an hour or so, but I always want it to be accessible to all. So that's why we do sometimes like a Zoom event where
Yes.
like I want everyone to have a chance to be. And so I think what you're doing is beautiful in saying, well, if you can't, afford the full one-on-one session, you can still work with me and you can still get a lot of the benefits of participating in a class, a workshop,
Yeah.
group meditation, a mediumship practice, whatever your mystical insights. And I love that. So thank you for sharing about that. I think that's really enticing. And so yes, and again, I assume that's also on your website, the
It
Patreon.
is.
Okay,
Right on the
great.
homepage, you'll see an announcement of it, and you can click through and then learn more about it. Yes, and I
Yeah.
wanna build that community. I think that there are a lot of people out there for looking for this kind of spiritual community.
Yeah, exactly. The
Yeah.
bless you for doing that. Thank you again so very much, Kimberly. It has been such a pleasure to have you, and what a great way to start my morning. And I hope that, and I don't even hope,
Yeah.
I trust that the audience will feel the same and feel, these are long conversations, but I believe they're engaging. I would listen to you speak for hours upon hours, and I trust that your books will. Now I'm going to get. I have ADHD, so it's hard for me to read these days. But I will listen to an Audible. So, and I especially like when it's in the author's voice. I'm a voice actor. I would
Mm,
rather hear if you. Not everyone has the gift. You are an eloquent, calming speaker. It comes from the heart. As an acting coach, I say, if it's your work, better you read it. Unless you
mm,
just suck at read. Some people just can't do it, and that's fine. And find someone who can. But coming from your heart, I know I'm going to enjoy it so much because you do get the energy involved. So everybody check that out. And thank you again, Kimberly, so much.
mhm.
KimberlyBraun.com.
Yep, .com.
BRAUN.
BR.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a beautiful day.